Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Kiki coming to you today to send nothing but love, peace, and light your way. I was out running some errands and listening to um, a podcast, and you know how I am. Everybody have their opinions, and I love to share my opinions too. But before I get started in this video, I do want to take out the time to give my haters some prop because I know that a lot of times they feel left out. They want attention. They always trying to send the evil eye. So I just want to take out the time to show some genuine love to my haters, because most of the time when you have a hater, you have to understand that they're not hating on you because of something major you did. It's something that's within them that need to be worked on, right? See, I don't hate my haters. I just love them from a distance. And that's pretty much what I do. And that's how I keep peace in my mind. So for the ones that abused me, thank you, because that gave me the strength to and the motivation to push through some very difficult times, even when I'm in pain and I'm aching all over. It just reminds me of how I survived from some unnecessary punches in my back and unnecessary slaps in my face and in my mouth. Thank you. I also want to thank those who abandoned me and chose somebody else over me and focused on somebody else. Thank you. I really appreciate that, because that just taught me how to detach. That taught me how to have more self-love and connect with my Most High and my spirit team. Now they can guide me in the right direction because I'm not focused on somebody else that got issues. So thank you, hater, for that. Thank you, hater, for cheating on me, because it made me learn how to put up boundaries and to not accept bullshit in my life. Thank you, because it also helped me learn how to develop inner peace and to appreciate the soloness of nature and the beauty and everything else, other than somebody who don't want to put in time with you. Why chase somebody who don't want to be loved? I mean, love nature, love yourself. So I just want to take out the time to say thank you. Thank you for those who deceived me and took advantage of me financially, because that just motivated me to move up higher and to not cry over the little chump change that you had to work so hard to deceive me over. You know, if it was $1 million, yeah, I'd probably be acting a straight ass fool. But because the little change that you promised to pay me back and you refused to pay me back, it's okay, because I know the Most High, I know my spirit guides is going to increase my salary. He's going to increase or provide everything that I need to be successful and comfortable. Thank you to the guys that wanted to pretend to be a friend and want benefits in the end. Thank you for showing me the true, showing me what is real and what is fake. Thank you to the jobs that did not believe in me, that did not support me, did not have patience with me. Thank you for motivating me to go back to school so I can gain more knowledge and I can do better for myself. And I don't have to worry about kissing nobody's ass. See? You see how the yin and yang energy work? So as above, so as below. Everything repeats itself. There's a consequence, a cause and effect and everything. You see how that works? So I embrace that. I'm not going to fight against it. Now that I'm done running my mouth on that part, I do want to say that the video that I ran across, this guy, and he was talking about the men, especially in our black communities. He was talking about how men need to be more responsible and healthy minded, in so many words. And I'll post the video somewhere on the screen so you can go back and check it out. And I felt like he did have some valid points, but the only little thing that I would have to, I'm not going to say I disagree, but I think it's some missing information when he said that too many women coddle the black men, and so many men are missing out of the household because they're not learning how to be men, especially when there's a lot of absent fathers. Now, he did not touch on the root cause of it, but I don't think all of the fingers should be just pointed towards the current situation of the parents. And I'm not trying to take accountability from anybody, because I definitely hold, my parents accountable for being absent. I know many mothers that were strung out in the streets, and fathers, strung out, and still made an effort to be some type of way a part of their child's life. um it probably wouldn't be the best bond, but there are some that did make an effort. And knowing that they don't have the best parenting, I mean the best advice and all of that, but they still try to make an effort to be there. So I'm not taking away from that, but I do feel like people should also keep this in mind when they do listen to the guy video. And I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but normally when I go through my YouTube page on my algorithm, there's always something there about relationships and spirituality, and that's just my thing. First, we got to go back in history. You cannot forget about history, because that is how it sets the tone for the present time and possibly the future. So I'm not saying you got to dwell on it, but we have to learn from our mistakes. Now, if you don't remember, a lot of black people, a lot of them were conditioned to live by a slave master's rules and ideas of what a relationship should be like. See, when you're treated like property, male and female, from your slave master, you're not going to be respected, and you're not going to learn healthy ways of being in a relationship. So when you get a group of people that have their own special tribe, their own special way of living, and they really was tapped into spirituality. The shamans, and over in Africa, they have their priestess and people that know how to do divinations. That take place. They all had a system in place, and I'll say 95% of the tribes respected the black woman. They looked at the woman as a special, unique leader with a lot of wisdom and that had a lot of capabilities. Okay, so the way women were treated back in the days was very different before they became captive. So you got to understand, when you have one way of living and somebody in a group of people, colonizers, come along and fuck all that up and interrupt that and change the way you eat, change the way you dress, change who you worship, change the way you love or connect with your children or your partner or their partner, that all of that was interrupted. So I know people say, well, that was centuries ago. That don't play a role. Yes, it does. Because when you are dealing with a situation that's pretty much out of your control, it leaves some type of wound spiritually and emotionally in you. And it does get passed on through the DNA. Your energy does not die out. It just transform or transfer over to another body. So when you don't receive the healing you need, you're just passing on the generational curses that took place from day one. So now your slave master taught you, maybe you had a different language. So first off, they didn't want you to learn how to read and write. So that was already a setback. Secondly, you were always emotionally abused when you did not obey whatever guidelines they gave you on a plantation. So if you're constantly being called a stupid nig, and you're constantly being whipped and essayed or raped or whatever, or seeing your family members or other people out there on a plantation being tortured or lynched, that changes the chemical balance in your mind. That creates depression. So now you got all those people living on a plantation trying to survive the best way they can. Men can't even love and be in a relationship with anybody because they don't know if they're going to be murdered or whether they're going to be sold. So having an attachment, it was very difficult. They pretty much had to beg their slave masters to keep their family together. So a lot of times that will create an anxiety in you to where you don't even want to create no bond with your child or with your partner, because you never know who's going to end up being murdered or who's going to be sold. So when you fast forward to this day, yes, we do have a little bit more so-called freedom where we don't have to be forced to work on a plantation, but we still have a lot of things that's out of place compared to the way we lived before the system was put in place, before we became a corporation or had to follow the matrix way of living. So, with that being said, if the government, which was based on a racist foundation, put together these special privileges for white people to be able to do certain things and black people can't do certain things, that also adds on a depression. Now we're talking about another generation of children. All right, y'all. I kind of got a little distracted. My daughter's with me. Say hi. Hi. All right. So I'm going to try to make this as fast as I can, but I think I stopped on fast forwarding it to the experiences a lot of the black families had to deal with when they kind of got a little bit of freedom, but they still had to deal with some Jim Crow situations. So at that point in time, that set of people, that group, that era, a lot of mothers and a lot of fathers were still frustrated. They were still depressed. When you see that, okay, the white kids have better school opportunities versus the black kids. They have better job opportunities versus what the black people could do. Because remember, everything was segregated. They could not do a lot of things that the white people could do. So that also creates another form of depression. So that's depression on top of depression. So when you fast forward up to the 80s, that's when drugs were purposely put out into our community to keep us divided, because they knew, especially the other culture, the other race, they knew that once black people become unified, just like the Black Panthers, we grow stronger, wiser, and we're more successful. So they didn't want that. So that's why drugs were introduced. And a lot of the guys that went over to the military and came back were already hooked on drugs. And so basically it spread throughout the community very rapidly and devastatingly, because I was around during that era, during the 80s. So watching fathers leave their family behind so they can go and look for some crack rock, that's going to create a lot of imbalance in the black families. Or the mothers leaving their children unattended to go and get crack rock. And then when the mother is high or father is high, they're not focused on children, and that's leaving the children to become prey to pedophiles and other evil people out there, or being kidnapped or being sent to what is called child trafficking. So when you fast forward up to what we have going on today, we have a lot of broken, displaced people. And because they know how to survive in a European system, because they know how to get the bag, they got nice cars, they got a job with a lot of white, well-paid people. They feel like, okay, we got it together. So I can cover up the depression, the brokenness, the generational curses of alcoholism, drug, substance abuse, hypersexuality. They can cover it up because now they feel like, oh, they're on a European level. They're being able to achieve some of the materialism that Europeans put out here and make it seem like it's the best thing to have in the world. That is kind of where it's at. And so now we have a lot of black men that do not know how to even break the system or snap out of the programmed way of living in the European world. They feel like, okay, well, I got the bag, so I can go fuck around with anybody I want. I can have more than one woman because I have graduated in the European system. But you don't understand that you're mimicking the same, or the man is mimicking the same behavior he learned from his probably father, his grandfather, and his grandfather probably had to learn that on a slave plantation when he saw the slave masters going into the huts or the shacks, sleeping around with the slaves. So, because a lot of the slave owners had a white wife and children, but they felt like, okay, let me go out there at nighttime when my kids sleep so I can go ahead and mess around with the other women. And they can't do nothing about it, because if they fight back, then it could be a severe consequence. So when I hear people try to come up with these ideas of why black men are missing in the home and they're not being faithful and they are broken. They are broken from the natural way of being, the way it was supposed to be during the indigenous ancient times. So now they've been taught to learn that women are less than. They're not important. A lot of black guys I've ran into do not even have a good relationship with their mother. I mean, unfortunately, I'm one of them too. But still, the thing is, and I even acknowledge that I say I had mothers and daddy issues, because I feel like I have learned more about our bloodline and about the system that was put in place that caused my family to make the choices they made to survive. But see, you can't expect a man to be in a household to teach his son how to be a man if he don't even know how to be a man. If he still if he's been programmed to think that, okay, you don't got to be faithful and let's just sleep around and we don't got to use protection. When you got a man that's trying to be a role model, but he's teaching his son that it's cool to be, a player, then that's why a lot of women are giving up on men. And I don't really, when he said that a lot of women like to coddle their sons, this is how I see it, because I have a son myself. I feel like I'm very protective of all my children. But the reason why I'm very, very careful with my son is because I feel like a lot of black men today are endangered species. If they're not fighting against other black children that's not being raised with manners and they're bullying, they got to fight against white racist people that's profiling, that's trying to have a reason to get them hurt, or they're fighting against women that's only out to gain money from them or to get pregnant by them so they don't have to work and they can use them up. So that's why I kind of show the way I raise my son is a little different from the way I raise my girls. Now, I don't believe in favoritism. I get on all their cases. Am I right? I get on all. If I'm being nagging, I nag with all of them. If I'm proud of them, I show them that I'm very proud. I'll show all of them that I'm very proud of them. Now, I'm not a perfect parent because, like I said, I had to relearn how in the proper way to be a good mother, because even though I did not agree with a lot of the things that I was raised with, some of those issues still followed me. So I didn't want it to be so toxic in my world to where now I'm stuck and then I'm repeating the same thing my family or my mother and my father did. Unfortunately, I could not resist the divorce part. My mother did divorce my father and a few other people, but it was a life and death. For me, it was a life and death situation why I had to walk away. And trust me, I did not want to have to walk away from my marriage. So with that being said, just keep that in mind. Before anybody get the blame, you got to go to the source and the root of the issues of why there's a lot of broken black homes. And now it's so many men some men are being spoiled by their mother, and they always trying to get away with murder pretty much. And, figuratively. But that's because a lot of women are afraid of losing their sons as well. It's like different sets of parents out here. Not everybody is not the same. So you definitely got to keep that in mind. But there are some mothers, they feel like, okay, well, I lost your father, or your father left me for somebody else, so I'm just going to hold on tight to my son because that's the closest I can get to love, of the father. So some women are like that. Oh, y'all, my memory is running out, y'all. I got to really work on trying to expand my storage, but I'm going to try to hurry up and end this now. But just keep in mind, there's a different sets of parents out there, and there's some that's very attached to their children, and yes, they do let them get away with a lot of stuff, because I deal with them when I go through a conference. Every time I call a mother and about a child or her son acting like a class clown, well, are you just picking only on my child? Because I know he ain't just doing it by himself. No, I called you about your son. I ain't call you about everybody else. So I know there's some women out there like that, and then there's some women out there that abuse their sons or leave them hanging because they're mad with the father, because they can't get what they want out of the father, and the son remind them too much of the father, so they cut the son off or they hurt the son or whatever. So, and that's why a lot of men are walking around with mommy wounds too. So it's like a catch 22 when it comes to people reasons for doing certain things when it comes to parenting. And yes, I was very, very strict with my girls because I know what I went through when I was young, and I definitely did not want them to, like, when it comes to spending the night, it took me a minute. Like, my daughter was so pissed off with me, my oldest, because she said, you know what, mama, you ain't let me spend the night until I was 17 years old. And let me tell you, if If you go back to one of my videos, I gotta remember the name of it, but I told you my experience with spending the night at my friend's house and being molested by my own friend. And then when her parents got on her behind, they abused that girl. They held her down, and it was like three people holding her down. I did not want my kids to go through that, and I know all children are not the same, but it's like when you go through a severe uh, issue or you see something that's devastating, it's like you become overprotective. So yes, I did wait until my daughter was 17 years old to allow her to spend the night over somebody's house. And then my nephew, I also mentioned in my other video, he was like in fourth or fifth grade, and when he spent the night over his friend's house, his friend got upset with him because he kept trying to go to sleep early, which was 12 o'clock in the morning. But his friend was like, man, you going to sleep too early. And he went in the kitchen and got a knife and started poking him in his behind, trying to make him stay awake. So I don't want to get off too much off the topic, but I just want you to understand that everybody's household isn't the same. Everybody's story and purpose for doing what they do and how they raise their children is just, sometimes it's based on past experiences and traumas, and sometimes people trying to make whatever they have work. Because like, to me, yes, it is an imbalance of men to women. It seems like there's more women than it is men, which basically is going back to the way it was from the beginning. Because in the beginning, the world was ran by all women anyway. Women did not need men to procreate. They were able to do that by themselves. Look up parthenogenesis. But now we find a lot of men are gravitating towards being transgenders, or they prefer the same sex. So that's another imbalance. And then when you got a whole lot of black men sent to prison because they're trying to survive by, committing crime, or because they're being sent to prison for some lies, something made up, that causes, when you take a man from the regular environment and you box them in with a whole lot of other men, and they're not able to do what they need to do naturally, then that's when you get a whole lot of men being emasculated and they're coming out feminine. So that's another reason why there's an imbalance. So unfortunately, when you have a broken man trying to raise a child or a son, it's not going to be a good outcome unless somebody decide to go and get the healing they need or face the problems. Because when I pointed out a lot of the negativities that with the people that I ran into, especially male figures, they were always in denial. They did not see anything wrong with their behavior. And I'm like, look, you sit here and bitch about everything your daddy did to your mama, but you doing just what your daddy doing. But they be in denial because they feel like, well, it's a little different because I have a different reason for doing what I'm doing. But it's the same behavior, the same outcome. So when men start to realize that they need to go within to heal whatever trauma, and see, when you heal your trauma today, you are healing your bloodline. You are breaking the generational curses. When you say, okay, I refuse to be a hoe in the streets, I refuse to mimic the person that molested me, and I don't want to be gay, or I don't want to be a hoe, that's breaking up generational curses. Or I refuse to continue on thinking that my cousin is fine enough to fuck. There's men out here that believe in incest, and that's because if you go back in time, the slave owners used to make the fathers procreate with their daughters so they can meet quota. Remember the breeding forms? Look it up. I ain't making this up. So there's a lot that goes into why the black communities are having a hard time keeping a stable family today. When you have a lot of distractions, a lot of women that's throwing their body out and meaning flaunting themselves and trying to be, need validation because they're broken. That's why it's like, why try to be faithful when nobody believe in being faithful no more? So when everybody come together and say, let's stop this shit, let's break this European behavior, and let's go back to our old traditional ways. Before my great-great-grandmother was colonized and forced to sleep with the slave master and forced to leave her husband or her lover behind because her man was sold off to another slave owner, when we try to get the healing and understanding on that, then I think that we'll have a lot more stronger men that's not confused in our society today. So with that being said, hopefully you can take what some of the things that I mentioned and use it, apply it, and help us make a change in our society, especially in your bloodline. So with that being said, I'm gonna leave it right here. love and peace.